um, the requirement of English proficiency for school teachers in Vietnam, and then it's and then the recruitment of students in our ELT program at my university. So that's why I think it may be not suitable for my students. They will not understand what it is. So and also because I'm too busy, I to send them.
Okay, so you're not now you are live on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because we stream live as well. Oh, hi.
Hello.
Ah, you look so nice.
Hello.
Hey.
So you are in the same department?
Yeah. Okay, so I call her also Madam Boss because she's the dean of the.
Okay.
She's the dean of the Faculty of Language International Education, right?
Madam Boss.
Madam Boss, yes, this is Madam Boss. My
Hello.
Madam Boss.
Nice to meet
This
you.
is Rahma. She will be the host for the meeting today. She's handling the YouTube, the Zoom. Yeah, I will be moderating on my laptop and another computer, so I have to move there. And I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, see you.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Halo, Bang. Waalaikumsalam. Tidak. Apa? Oh. Oke, ya, ya.
Ayat ini penting. Pasal yang ketiga, yang terkait terkait. Jadi kita tahu Kristus itu hanya waktu sama kita. Yang
Lo kemana? Gue lagi cek tipis. Nonton dulu. Gue mesti lihat. Jam juga. Itu ya, jadi akhir bulan. Ya, Desember. Bikinnya berapa tahun? 2,5. 2,5. Ya, 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 tingginya. Kebakaran. Kan lebih dewasa. Gimana? Dari bentuknya lebih dewasa. Iya. Mungkin lebih berisik. Cek. Mulai. Mantap ya.
Bisa, Mbak.
Hmm. Hmm.
Duduk di dalam aja. Ini pasti apa? Ini kali. Oh. Semua maksudnya. Oh gitu. Ini dong.
Itu jangan bisa.
Ya, langsung aku. Oke. Apa nih? Orang nganggune sing PPI.
Recording.
Kira ono suarane iki wis ta. Oke.
English is my second language. As a vlogger, I deal with social media a lot, which is actually fun for me, but I will say
there's no doubt that what I do is a deeply personal song to me. And I think when we go through
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Professor Colleen. I've seen you on the screen. I would like to say hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. What time is it now at your place?
One moment. I'm just trying to adjust the volume. It seems quite low on my end for me.
Yes.
So. There.
Yeah. Is it at night at the moment at your place? Is it night now? Nighttime.
Yes.
Nighttime.
Yes, it's 9:30 p.m. our time.
Oh. Sorry, so we will just make it quick because it's near bedtime for you.
No, I'm actually a night owl, so this
okay.
is fine.
Okay, that's good to know. Right. Okay, so everyone here, it's 8:31 now, so I better start introducing our speaker for today. So we will have two speakers, Professor Colleen Pilgrim and Dr. Nguyen Hon Nhung. Dr. Nhung, are you here? See, yeah. So this is our first and second speaker, Professor Colleen and also Dr. Nguyen. And we are so delighted to have you both at this event and to share your knowledge and expertise about teaching for adults in andragogy, and then also for English teaching in probably in respective contexts of your country. But we would like to have more insights on how to hopefully we can also implement that in our country, because in our context at the moment, we are a master of English education, so we are teaching adults mostly, and our students are teachers, sometimes professionals who have been in the profession for more than 5 years. Sometimes they are 10 years in the profession, and they went back to college to pursue higher education. So it will be really insightful to have your knowledge shared with us today. And English teaching in general, we have like probably for Indonesian and Vietnamese context and or in the American context, we will have slightly different, but it would be good to understand how English is taught in different countries. Yeah. So I would like to introduce the first speaker for the day. Our first speaker is Professor Dr. Colleen Pilgrim. At the moment, she's a professor at Schoolcraft College in psychology department that is in Detroit, Michigan, USA. During her profession, she has been teaching online and traditional classroom for more than 20 years. So experience is not questioned. Of course, 20 years is a long time. She used to be a researcher at the University of Michigan and also at Wayne State University. She earned her doctoral degree in social development psychology, focusing on cross-cultural studies and research. And at the moment, she has like the global perspective, include collaborative efforts at Colombia, Turkey, China, and Indonesia. So I believe that Professor Colleen, you're not a stranger to Indonesian culture, is it?
No, I worked with colleagues at Atmajaya a few years ago.
Okay, that's
Dr.
interesting.
Teresa Shante, and then she came here to Schoolcraft as part of our exchange. So
okay, so that's awesome. Atmajaya, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So Indonesia is not a foreign country for you because you've been here probably for some time. Okay. And she works with. She's an active member of the Schoolcraft College International Institute, and also for the Midwest Institute of International and Intercultural Education. At the moment, Professor Colleen Pilgrim serves as an associate editor for Schoolcraft College Community College Enterprise Journal. So with the abundance of experience and expertise, we hope to hear some insightful remarks and explanation from you. And I would like to explain a little bit about the community or the university where she's teaching. So Schoolcraft College, it's a community college. It means that it serves people around the area, and it offers 2 years associate degrees and prepares most of the students to transfer to 4-year university. And then the student in that college, in Schoolcraft College, are various from economy and background, cultural background, and usually they have like family obligations. The students are mostly adults, so who have families or they have work, and they still have to attend classes. So that's why teaching adults, it takes like certain expertise that it is different from pedagogy, where usually teachers are dealing with youth, and youth, their focus and their responsibility is mostly on their own education, but adult students are different. And Professor Colleen, today we will be talking more about andragogy. So I guess do you mind if we start a little bit early, Professor Colleen?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So without further ado, I would like to present you Professor Colleen Pilgrim from Schoolcraft College.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And it's an honor to be here this morning or this evening and talk to you about this topic. I'm going to go ahead. I'll try and toggle back and forth so that you're not just looking at the PowerPoints and we get to see each other's faces occasionally, versus I know from doing so many of these meetings, it gets a little tiring to just look at the slides, but I do want to put them up for a moment and kind of give you a perspective on, let's go ahead and I do want to give a thank you. I put a thank you on that first slide there. We have an office that does data collection, and my colleague Michelle Sando, she was wonderful in pulling together some of the Schoolcraft information that I'm going to share with you today. And so I do want to thank her. What I thought I would start out by doing was just showing you visually where I'm at. And so you can tell. I am in the state of Michigan in the US. And in Michigan, because as you can see, we're surrounded by water and our state looks like a hand. So actually when Professor Shanti came here, we taught her this. You have to say where you're at with your hand, which comes in handy when you live here because you give directions based on your hand. And so we are kind of below the thumb in Detroit. That's where we're located. And so you can see on the map, we're in Detroit. We say Detroit, we're a suburb kind of just outside of Detroit, just a few miles from the city. And so I wanted just to show you some pictures of campus to give you an idea of our campus. So we are, you know, in a suburb, and I'll say more about our student population, but I thought it'd be nice. We have extreme weather. We're just coming out of our winter. And so we go from, as you can see, some pretty cold weather with snow to what we're looking forward to now is some nice warm weather and flowers and greening up. So that's us. That's where we're at. And then I thought I'd start out by asking you maybe to put in the chat what defines an adult learner, or some of you can unmute and tell me what comes to mind when you think of an adult learner. I thought we'd just kind of start thinking about it. So if you'd like to put it in the chat, it could be one word, a phrase. What do you think of in terms of adult learners? Ah, so that's a good one. Anything else? You know, I teach psychology and we talk about stereotypes. So what's the stereotype you might have of the adult learner? Besides, it's difficult. So it's difficult to change them. So we think, maybe they're set in the ways. Strong motivation. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Absolutely. More pragmatic. Yeah, that's a good one, because we're going to talk about the fact that, you know, often they really have a set agenda, you know, and we'll talk about why that's so, some of the barriers. So did anyone think of age when we said adult learners? So we tend to, you know, think, you know, these are older learners. And so critical thinking, oh, awesome. Fiscal, yeah, so finances, bigger effort to handle. Yeah, it's definitely, they have more on their plate, and we're going to talk about some of what they're saying they have on their plate. And I know many of you are adult learners, right? So what is it then that we need to remind ourselves when we're in the classroom? Experiences. Yeah, experiences. And we're going to talk about using how that's a benefit to our classrooms. Yeah, we have this sense, if you look in the literature, often it's this, when they say adult learners, it's talking about 25 and up seems to be something that we focus on in some of the literature. But what I really want you, thank you so much for sharing. And I want us to kind of think about how we think about adult learners in our, in our classrooms, and, how we can go about maybe restructuring our classrooms to address what's going on with our adult learners. So I'm going to share one more time the screen, and so I really want to talk about really redefining how we think about our adult learners, and really, and some of you had wonderful answers, are right in the direction that I'm going with this, that it's not just age, that, I have 18, 19, 20-year-olds in my classroom that are adult learners, and they come with a very different needs, different agendas. And so I put on my screen, these are, pictures of, the community college that I teach at. And as was mentioned, we are a 2-year college, and these students we serve the community, and they come to our college because it's local. So it's right near home. So it's a short commute to the college. So if they've got family obligations, we're right there. And an important factor is that our tuition is much cheaper than the university. And so they're coming because they are wanting to choose us, partly financial reasons. So I wanted to share with you, this graph here in terms of our students, and get us to think about the fact that just because you're 18 or 19 years old doesn't mean you don't have obligations. In fact, what you're looking at there is a graph of our students. In terms of working full-time and part-time, almost all of our students have some type of employment. It went down a little bit, and that's what you're seeing in the graph. But because of the pandemic and people losing their jobs, but for the most part, we have 50% right now working full-time and going to school, and 23% working part-time. So the majority of our students are working and going to school while they're doing it. And we'll talk about some of the other responsibilities. So we have to address this with our students. This is always on their mind when they're in the classroom. So I want to change the perspective. I want us to think about tonight or this morning, how we can go about changing our perception of the adult learner. What is going on with the adult learner? What are the needs that they need addressed? And how can we change how we think about our classrooms? How we address then the adult learners by restructuring our classroom. And that's what I'm going to end today with, is how to think about restructuring what we do in the classroom. Because it really, to address the adult learner, we really need to address the structure of our classroom. All right, so what you're seeing on the screen, and I'm assuming, let me know if you can on the screen, is a picture, a visual of how adult learners are coming to us in the classroom. And so adult learners are coming with a self-concept that's self-directed. They are different, as was mentioned, than youth. They're coming with their own self-direction as part of their self-concept. So it's different than teaching youth, teaching children in terms of how they view the self. They are self-directed in terms of the learning. And in terms of the experience, as mentioned, they are bringing experiences, And this is a rich resource that we should be using in the classroom. And they want, not only is going to help us in the learning process, and it's really going to do much for the classroom environment, but our adult learners want this as part of the learning experience. And I'm going to give you some examples as we go through this. And then orientation to learning, I'm a lifespan psychologist, so I look across the lifespan. Their orientation to learning, they're now abstract thinkers as adults. If you're familiar with Piaget, famous developmental psychologist, which I'm sure most of you are, being in the education area, Piaget talks about adults being at, that last stage of formal operations. You now have that abstract thinking. And this is part of what you come to the classroom with. You're motivated to learn also. You have that your motivation to learn is very much intrinsic as the adult. Now, of course, there's individual variations, and I'll mention and talk about that, but that is a difference with the adult learner and the readiness to learn. You want to, know things. You have the drive to want to know. So this is going to be different than when you're looking with youth. Hang on, I'm going to juggle for a second so that you have the full screen here. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure why. Oops. All right. Actually, I realized I missed this, so I wanted to go back to it. And the reason I chose this picture in our discussion of talking about adult learners is we can't tell from this picture, who's the teacher, who's the student. And I mean, we're teaching adults who have these experiences. I have often students now, as I'm getting older, not so much, but that are my age. They're coming with experience just like me. So we do need to be reframing our classrooms differently. And then here's andragogy is what we've been talking about, this idea that there's methods and principles used in adult education that is different than the pedagogy, methods and practices used with children. And so we want to tonight really start thinking about making sure we're not using pedagogy, and instead we're really focused on using andragogy in our classroom. And I wanted to share with you this quote that I thought was a nice quote to kind of frame where we're going, is that when we talk about motivating that adult learner in the classroom, today, this is from Motivating Factors for Adult Learners. This is Soegernro in 2015. And today, the fact still remains that many instructors in higher education programs are stuck with pedagogical skills, how to teach children, and consequently tend to demotivate our adult learners. For all practical and professional purposes, teaching at the K through 12 level is different from teaching at the college and university levels. And so that's where we want to go. We want to go toward thinking about how then we should be teaching differently for adults versus children. So, just a little a quick review of what we mean by the child learner, what's going on with the child learner. The visual there really demonstrates what's going on. You have the teacher, and the teacher is extending information toward the children. And so in this paradigm, the learner is dependent on the teacher. It's a dependent personality going on with the child where you're dependent on the teacher. You have little experience, which children have less world experience, and so you enter into this with less to bring in terms of your world experience. you're often told what to learn. It's coming at you. And this is often how it is. You learn this information and then you can go on to the next grade level. Now, I did put in there, you know, you often will have this though in say work performance where, you know, this approach is often used to, hey, you have to meet this to get the next, you know, income increase, your salary goes up for next level of employment. But this is really not where we're going to with the adult learner in our classroom. We're going away from this approach. And people are motivated, or children are motivated by these external pressures, these, you know, these external factors there. Now, I did want to mention, and I wrote in my notes to remind myself to tell this little story here on motivation. You know, it doesn't, any of you that have, so here's my story. It's not that children don't have intrinsic motivation, but a lot of it is still extrinsically motivated with children in the classroom, with youth. And right now, just an example, we have 5 children and the youngest is almost 15 and he is in high school. And we're still very much there as parents saying, did you do your homework? You know, what do you have to do? And we're very much that external pressure. That's much different than one of our older 21-year-old that's getting ready to finish college and is very much intrinsically motivated. Again, it's not saying that our 14-year-old or those younger students don't have any intrinsic motivation, but there's still much needed, you know, external pressures, kind of that getting them toward where you want them to go. We know that as developmental psychologists, we're leading them toward hopefully that intrinsic motivation. So it's really different when you're talking about the child learner. However, the problem is often that we're still using this approach with our adult learners who don't really thrive with this approach. This isn't what they need because they're different. So let's look at what's going on with the adult learners. So what's going on with them? They need to know why. They want to know why they're learning something. And so in the classroom, if you're not telling them why, they're going to be less motivated. When you tell them why, the motivation increases. For example, and actually before I get to that, I have the visual on there. We're really talking about multi-directions with our adult learners. It's not that top down. We want to get away from that model. So the visual there shows the professor, the teacher in red, information going out to the learners, information coming in, and then you see information with all of the learners, all of the students. So back to one of the principles in teaching adults is that they want to know why. You know, why am I having to learn this? And you know, for example, with my students, they have to do, I have, you know, freshmen coming in, introductory psychology classes, and see if I go ahead and stop this. So I have an introductory class, and they're not very happy when I tell them they have to read primary research sources. So they have to actually go and find research studies. And I'm sure many of you remember when you first had to read research studies, like the actual dense study, it's really challenging the first time you actually have to get in there and read research studies. And they don't want to do this sometimes, but they do once I tell them why. They want to know why. You know, I'm not going to be a researcher. I'm in this introductory class. Why do I need to do this? So once I talk to them and say, okay, well, what is your major? And I have a lot of nursing students. And I say, well, okay, you're not necessarily going to be a psychology. We know you're not going to go into psychology. You want to be a nurse. But this is a skill that if you learn how to read a research study, yes, in this class, we're going to read research studies about psychology. We're going to read those primary sources. But if you do this and work through being able to read these research studies and be able to take that information and turn it into a paper, you now have the skill when you're a nurse and someone says, we need information on a drug or a treatment, you can now go to the medical journals. You now have the skill to read the research. And so I've given them a why. We give them, this is why you're doing this. And then at that point, you have buy-in. Or the student that says, I'm going into marketing. I say, well, you know what? There are journals in marketing research. You're at your place of employment and you want to find out what research has been done in a particular area of marketing. There are marketing journals. And so that's key with our adult learners, is letting them know why I'm doing this particular assignment. Why are we learning this? What's the why behind it? And they're self-directed in terms of learning. They as much control as you can give to them is going to make the learning richer for you and them. I really allow them lots of direction in terms of even topics. So oftentimes assignments or assessments are so narrowly defined for students, instead of giving them a wider scope and letting them self-direct. So these papers that I have them do, as long as it's in psychology somehow, they can pick any topic they want. They can self-direct on that. Of course, there's dialogue with me on how are you going to, or what the how-tos and how you can get these resources and helping them read through them. But they really get to have their own direction on this. A lot of my students are coming, they're not nurses yet, but they're in the field of, they're in the medical field. And so they want to, go research articles in psychology related to their field. They're self-directed on this. You don't need to say, here's the topic and I want you to do this. You can give them more choices because they are going to self-direct and they're going to be more invested in it if they get to have some of their own self-direction on what you're doing in the classroom, which allows them, with that third bullet point, to then use those experiences within the context of that classroom. So particularly, I know I keep going back to my nursing students. I have a lot of nursing students. I've told them why you're doing this research paper. You're going to develop this skill. I've given you some ability to self-direct. You get to pick any topic. You just have to approve it with me. You got to talk through it, but you get to figure out what it is you want to do. And then you get to tie it into your past experiences, your present experiences. You get to make it meaningful for you. And then, part of the adult learners is they've come back and they've got this situation now that has caused them maybe to come back, be it I'm coming back to school. For many of my younger students, it's not I'm coming back to school, it's that now they have graduated from high school and they really are financially on their own. And so they have decided, they're working in, not in lower paying positions that that's not what they want for their career. And so they really do have this is where, you know, a direction where they want to go. And so again, you're tying in that classroom to a purpose, to their life situation. You can focus on giving them meaning. And again, it's going to tie into their intrinsic motivation. Now, of course, not every student that walks in has the same level of intrinsic motivation, but it is much different than when you're dealing with the child. All right. Oh, I know there was one example I wanted to talk about, and maybe you've noticed this. So this motivation and how you have more intrinsic motivation with the adult learners. I always find it interesting at the end of class to watch who's packing up to leave and who's not. And by the end of, and so you have some that are just not ready to go. They're very invested. And I have to admit, it is sometimes the younger students that are packing up, you know, and it may be, and I'd be interested to hear from you, whether it's a cultural norm for where we have maybe less respect for the professor in the United States, but I do get students, you know, it's like a few minutes before class is over and they're, you know, already packing their bags. But there's variation on that. And those that are, I really think it's tied to that intrinsic motivation. But what is interesting over the course of the term, I find that I actually address it and say, oh, we've got 10 more minutes. And by the end of the term, I've set the norm that's, you know, they've actually become more invested and they kind of follow along with the ones that are less likely to pack up at the end and okay, I'm done. Anyway, that was my thought on that. So hopefully you're starting to get kind of a framework for what we're looking at with the adult learner. Let me then really quickly, I decided I wanted to, because as a psychologist, I teach on memory, to put this in here. And we are going to get to how should you structure your classroom. And I'm going to talk about some resources for you. Just really quickly, adults do continue to learn. We know that from the research. We know that there is plasticity with the brain and that they're continuing to learn. What I think is interesting to think of as a bonus for our adult learners is when we look at what we call crystallized versus fluid intelligence. So fluid intelligence is, speed and processing, abstract thinking, and it shows the person like putting together the puzzle. That's different than crystallized intelligence, which is knowledge of facts and experience. And crystallized intelligence just increases across the lifespan and gets more and more as you age. And this is a bonus for our adult learners, is this crystallized intelligence. Now, there is some in research suggesting fluid intelligence peaks by 30 and tapers off. There's some debate over that in terms of when that really decreases and how much, but regardless of that, we know that they're coming with this wealth of knowledge, with this crystallized intelligence, which is just such a bonus. Also, memory does best when you connect the old with the new. Again, that experience they're bringing. So we know that that's a bonus for memory when you connect to what's already there. And so to the extent you're getting them to use those experiences is going to help in terms of their memory in the classroom for what we're teaching them in our disciplines. Emotions are extremely powerful in memory. That dopamine, dump that in the reward center. So if you're using experiences, you're engaging them, that intrinsic motivation, this is all positive factors that are going to, positive emotions that are going to help in learning. And this one isn't just for adult learners, but I always like to throw this in. This is why I like to put images on my slides, is we know visual encoding is so powerful for learning. So that was just a quick kind of what we know with memory and the adult learner. Okay, so what then is successful adult learning? And what are some of the barriers? And then what do our adult learners need in the classroom? We know so far they're coming with a different framework, a different cognitive, all these different things we've talked about. So what are some of the barriers? This is coming from some research that was done by Hunter Johnson and Smith, where they looked at, they went in and asked adult learners, and what are the things that are most a concern? What are the barriers to your learning? Not surprisingly, finances are up there. That is the number one concern that weighs on the adult learner. And I just gave you some data. It was really interesting because I didn't get the data till after I decided kind of what I was going to talk about tonight. And our data at Schoolcraft really lined up with what the research is saying. And it shows you there that, 72% of our students are worried they're not going to be able to pay off their debt. They're worried just even if emergencies come up. And so this is a constant concern, as well as number two is family. So they're still taking care of family, even our younger students. One of our Schoolcraft students said, one of our analytics said, students are caregiving for grandparents, for spouses, children. I personally have students that are caring for siblings. And that was new to me, 20 years when I started at Schoolcraft. And now I understand that their parents have other work commitments, and so it's on them to take care of siblings. And so here's some of our data that aligns with the research. More than half of our students, are saying that it's important that they support family. And if you look at that, 39% of our students are spending over 40 hours a week providing care for someone, be it a grandparent, parent. What are the other barriers? Work. This is huge. And I like this quote, when instructors aren't reasonable with adult students, I can't afford to lose my job. And sometimes I just have to work. It can conflict with schooling. And this is a reality that we need to realize. We have policies now at Schoolcraft where they can petition for non-punitive withdrawals. I mean, the reality is sometimes work changes, and these students, there's nothing they can do about this. This kind of goes into institutional factors, but you can, at the classroom level, be aware of this with your adult students. This is beyond their control. I've got to travel for work, whatever issue it is. Time management, of course, makes sense. They're juggling all this. I actually assess sleep in my class, how much sleep they're getting as part of the content. And our students are extremely sleep deprived, our adult students. I mean, some of them are at clinical sleep deprivation levels when we measure it. Institution, what does it mean in terms of a barrier? Just what is your university, what is your college doing or not doing to support students? And there's a quote you can read there about, one of our students not being happy in terms of the support when they called in. So, what can your college be doing? I know at one point they wanted to change to offer earlier classes, and they just, decided to institute, they were going to do 8 a.m. classes. Well, it didn't work for a lot of our nursing returning students because they were dropping kids at school and then coming to class. So they couldn't come to the 8 a.m. classes. So thinking through, because students are telling us, our adult students are telling us that to extent institutions maybe are not addressing their needs. And then psychosocial, this isn't surprising. Prior to the pandemic, we had increasing rates of anxiety and depression across the board for college students. It's just exacerbated it. In fact, we had, as you can see there, 83% of our students surveyed said they had an increase in mental health issues, and 4 out of 5 are saying, that the pandemic added to their stress. So it's now made a situation before even worse. Psychosocial issues are huge. All right, really quickly then, what should we be doing then? What is it that this is coming from research from Gunro, and what should we be doing in designing our classroom then? These align with what we said adult learners need. They want quality of instruction. So what's most important, what motivates them? The quality of the instruction, the quality of curriculum. Well, this aligns with the fact that these are motivated, intrinsically motivated individuals. They come wanting to learn. And so this is of most important. Is it relevant? Again, they're coming often for particular reasons. And they've got all of these barriers there that they're overcoming just to get to class. So they want to know it's relevant. You've got to have good quality in the curriculum, the instruction. It's got to be relevant to them. And the interactive classroom, they want the interaction. These are adult learners. I can't stress enough timely feedback. They want that feedback. I just had one of my older sons was telling me his instructor had not given them feedback in the 10 weeks of class that he had been in, which is, he was very distraught over that. They not only want timely feedback, but they want progressive assessments that you're learning throughout the term, not just, okay, I'm going to give you this information, you study it, and then here's the exam. They want to be involved in the learning. They want constant assessment on what they're doing. And again, they're self-directed. Now, just to mention, respect is crucial. These are older adult students. They've got limited time, so you need to respect that and be prepared to learn from them. I mean, that's why I love working with adults, is you're learning from them, and otherwise it gets pretty stale if you're not learning from your students. But it's okay. I put in there, it's okay to reaffirm your qualifications. You are the professor, you are, being given this class, you're being paid, you have the title. It's okay to remind them that, but don't be afraid to hand over control the classroom to them. Let them be in charge of some of this learning. You're going to have a better outcome. And again, I can't stress enough, work and family are often beyond their control, and we need to recognize that. And then this last one's going to lead. Oh, let me read one more. This quote came to me, from my one student. Adult learners understand the financial burden they are placing on themselves just by attending school, an understanding not necessarily shared by younger cohort. They accept to be treated with respect and give that same respected return. In other words, adult learners are serious students. And I thought it was interesting. My student didn't know I was going to talk about respect. And I said, hey, is there anything you want me to tell folks when I'm talking about adult learners? And she's actually, the student who gave me this, she's a high school teacher who's now coming back for a second career. And this is what she said. So respect is huge for adult learners. So one more thing on this, they may be anxious. Adult students can be very anxious about failure, and it makes sense given all the barriers to get you there in the first place. You're going to be anxious. You've got a lot at stake here, financially, personally, and they may take those errors as a blow to their self-esteem. So we've got to make it safe and secure in that classroom for them. And I just put up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're not familiar with it, it simply means in order to get those higher goals of feeling good and confidence and fulfillment, those educational goals that we want, we have to meet those lower needs. And one is security. And so to the extent that classroom is safe for those adult learners, a lot of times these folks, they've had to do it all. And so they feel like they must come and do it all, and they might not ask you for help. Here's some support systems when you ask them, what's supporting you through all this, to the extent family and work and friends. And we can't forget spirituality is huge when you talk to adult learners in terms of what are their needs. I want to then leave you with the learner-centered classroom. So everything we've been looking at so far says, okay, this is what's going on with the adult learner. So this is what our classrooms should look like. And the problem is our classrooms aren't often looking like this. So here's what we need to do. We need to restructure our classrooms. And so you see that you're redefining the relationship between the professor and the learner. The professor is taking on new roles as well as the learner, and there's new responsibilities for both. So, and this aligns with what we've been talking about. You're going to do less lecture, more facilitation, more assessment, because they want that continuous assessment, and more feedback. So think of your role as a facilitator, and you're going to share the power. That's the new responsibility. You're going to share the power in the classroom. You're going to feel okay giving that power to your students for the learning. That's what they want. That's what they thrive on. And that rationale for why you're doing this is so important. They want to know why. You want to give them choices. This all aligns with the adult learner and what we know adult learning is about. And so they're going to take on these new roles. They're going to be part of this. At the beginning, you may have to, because they're so used to maybe a top down, you have to kind of model this at the beginning and let them know it's okay to take this on. You're going to share power with them. You're going to be okay handing over the learning within the classroom structure, that they're going to be making choices about what they want to do in terms of the learning. Now, this sounds like a lot. And they are going to be teaching each other and working with each other. I'd like to do a lot of group projects with my students. So I want to leave you with some resources, because I know I need to give it over to questions. I want to show you two of my favorite. This one is out of a college, Algonquin College in Canada. And there's this college has such wonderful resources on for their professors that you can access on strategies, the learning environment. So all kinds of good stuff for you there. Oops. Oops. And then the learner-centered teaching. Some of the resources in this talk were taken from the book. You have it in the reference of my slides by Terry Doyle. And so I love this site that he's put together. He's actually emeritus. He is no longer actively teaching, but he's still doing stuff on education. He's emeritus at a college here in Michigan. And so he's got a wonderful, wonderful website there as well on this learning-centered approach. I also too recommend his book, which is in the reference there, just to get started on thinking through how you're redefining your roles and responsibilities to meet the adult learner where they're at. So I will stop it there. And that was what I wanted to share with you. And at some point, I know you'd like us to do discussion. Did you want at this point?
I think we should save it for later, because we have like two speakers, and then we will have question and answer after.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So you're done with your presentation. Thank you. Are you done? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for presenting very interesting and insightful topics about adult education. We have many questions, but we will wait until Dr. Nyung finish with her presentation, and then we can go full on for the question and answer sessions. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Professor Colleen, for presenting your topic. And now I'm going to introduce you to the second speaker, Dr. Nguyen Thi Hong Nguyen from University of Language and International Studies, Vietnam. Dr. Nguyen finishes her doctoral degree in 2019 from Massey University, New Zealand. Currently, she's the dean of the Faculty of Language in the university. Her doctoral degree focuses on education. So the next topic is about English education. As far as I know, Dr. Nguyen here has interest in researching for education in general and also in the context of Vietnam. And one of her work, she discussed the internationalization of universities. And then I attended her speech like a few weeks ago, where she presented very interesting insight also on education topics. So without further ado, I would like to present you Dr. Nguyen Thi Hong Nguyen. Time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Stevie. So I would like to fix some information to make it clear that I am the Dean of the Faculty of English Language Teacher Education.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And our faculty, in addition to students provide bachelor program or teaching master student, we have done a lot of professional training for school teachers. And that what Siti just mentioned about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I have a presentation about communities engaged learning. And that is what we a kind of project, community project that our university is doing for what is say a rural province or town, a rural town. We support students and teachers in that area to improve the English education. So, and part of my PhD or doctoral research is about internationalization. So it's very, and yes, of course, as Siti said, my interest is in education. So today, sorry, I need to put in my battery. Yes. So today, what I would like to share with you is about our program in English language teacher education, but just focusing on the session about the component about English education and what is happening. Maybe my topic is will be very specific about the context of Vietnam, and it is also about adult learner, like Colin just talked about, and Colin talked a lot about some factors that affect the what is say something about the motivation and the learning process of the adult learner. So in my presentation, I would like to talk about something about the context which affect our education process. Okay, so I would like to share it. So can you see my screen? Yeah, okay, thank you. So what I would like to talk about is about the English proficiency component in English language teacher education program, the context of Vietnam. So first of all, my presentation today, we have 3 parts. I talk about the current context of English education in Vietnam. And next, I would provide a review of English language component in some program that are now run by key university in Vietnam. And then the last part would be about the experience of my university, the University of Language and International Study, Vietnam National University. So the first part, talking about the current context of English education in Vietnam, first of all, I would like to talk about what we are doing at the school levels. So in Vietnam, English was a compulsory subject from grade 6 to grade 12, but it used to be before. Why we choose the milestone of 2018? Because in 2018, in Vietnam, we have a big change. So the government implement the new national curriculum. So why do you call it new? Because that new national curriculum, before 2018 or before that national curriculum, our program, our education at the school level, we do not pay attention to. We first focus on the knowledge that the student are required to have at each school level, primary, secondary, high school. But with the new national curriculum, it focus on the competence of students at each school level. It may not be new to Colin because in the US, the competence, learning competence has been talking about for a very long time before that. But for Vietnam, it is something very quite new, and it would affect a lot the way the teachers teach and the way they teach in the class and the way the students learn in the class as well. So it is a big change. And for English specifically, that national curriculum also describe the level or the competence of English or English proficiency that is required for school levels, which was not mentioned before in any national curriculum. So, and after that national curriculum was issued, English became the compulsory subject from year 3 to year 12, or grade 3 to grade 12. So that means we have kind of 10 years of English education at school level instead of 7 years English education. And that is about the school level. In addition to that, for the school teachers, for English, for teachers of English at school level, we have also the circular 23-24. Is maybe not necessary for you to know that, but this circular it requires the foreign language proficiency level of foreign language teacher at school level. So it say that the teachers at the secondary school level, I mean from grade 6 to grade 9, the teachers have to have B2. So it is a kind of in CELR, the Common European Framework. So it is kind of B2, or it is equivalent to something like 6.0 IELTS. So that is that is about the English proficiencies of teachers. But before that, we didn't have any kind of requirement for school teachers. So, and also for high school teachers, the teacher who teach at teach grade 10 to grade 12, they should have a C1 level. So that is like a 7.0 IELTS. And it has been a very big concern for school teachers because they didn't have to do that before. So that is about the English education at school level. So it is also so English education at high education level is also have some change when the government and the Ministry of Education set the target we have a kind of national project to put English as a kind of the key foreign language that every student need to speak, need to learn. So at higher education level, we have some kind of circular here as well. That is government document. So the first thing it is they issue 6-level foreign language competence framework for Vietnam. So that is the kind of framework that's similar to the CEFR. But we, instead of I think 5 level or something, we have the 6 level, and we try to contextualize it for Vietnamese people. And that framework has been applied for not only the student at school, but also student at higher education level. So that means, and after that, they have another circular in 2015 talking about requiring the competence of English that each graduate of higher education should have. So, for example, I just in the small letter, that is a quote that I take from that circular. So the competence of being able to understand the key contents of a report, speech, use foreign language to talk in common professional activities, simple report. This is the English competence proficiency required for any graduate which is not major in English. So like if you are studying architecture, that is what you are required to have. And if you is talking about the level, it is about the B1 level in CEFR framework. And for what about higher education, for bachelor program or for program that is the ELT teacher education ELT education program, they have a framework for foreign language teachers competence. So in that framework, of course, we talk about different kind of competence, teaching professional competence, understanding learner or whatever. But English proficiency is very first competence that they put in that framework. And for that, all the students who graduate from English language teacher education program or any foreign language teacher education program, they should have they should achieve C1 level. So currently at my university, every student who study in ELT education program, in order to graduate, they should at least, that is a kind of the first learning outcome, is their English proficiency is at C1 level. So that was not required for my time. It was not required. Okay. So next, I would like to talk about a review about the English language proficiency component in the ELT education bachelor program in some university in Vietnam. So in Vietnam we have so that is the guideline that the government apply for 4-year initial teacher education program. So as you can see that we have different kind of subject group, and that is some example of the subject you can see, and the English language skill and linguistics and literature, culture, teaching methodology have, as you can see, it occupies the biggest number of academic units. This is about 110 academic units. So that is the biggest part. So with this kind of guideline, so how the university in Vietnam have been doing with this. So as a review of English proficiency in different ELT bachelor program, I found that they have different universities, they have different number of credit required by different university. So here are the key institutions providing language teacher education bachelor program in Vietnam. So as you can see, we have 3 main regions: the South, the Center, and the North. So the university in the list here are the key university which provide English language teacher education program, and their program is quite what do you say, can be the famous or the good reputation in Vietnam. So as you can see here, that is the number of credit for English. For English proficiency in this in their ELT program. So for example, the first one, the University of Teacher Education in Ho Chi Minh City, they have 34 credit out of 135. And however, for Cần Thơ University, it is another one in the south. They have only 24. And Dong Tháp University, the first three one is the south, the university in the south of Vietnam. So you can see they have very different number of credits. For Dong Tháp University, they even have 48 credits for out of their 140 credit of the total of the whole program. So number 4 and number 5 are the two universities in the central part of Vietnam. So the University of Foreign Language, Huế University, they have 44 credits. And numbers 6, 7 to 8. Number 7 is our neighbor education, neighbor university, because it is next to our university. So for this university, they have the same number of credit as our university, that is, which is 39 credits. However, I don't know about the other university. However, at our university and at Huế University, at Cần Thơ University, although we have 39 credits for this English proficiency component, the teaching hour really double the credit hour. So as you may know, Colin, in the US, for each courses, if we have, it has 3 credit, it is 3 credit. So the teaching hour or the actual face-to-face hour would be 45 hours. So that means each credit we have 15 teaching hour. However, we have double. Our university, we double the teaching hour for each credit. So for example, for 39 credit, we actually have more than 1,000, I think 1,170, I think so, that's why I remember, more than 1,000 teaching hour of English proficiency for students. So in order for them to achieve C1 level before they leave the university. So that's what we used to do from before 2021. I mean, currently we're still doing that. And however, so that is about the current context, that about the English proficiency. So it is a very big part of any ELT program in Vietnam. So for example, to be more specific, what each university have in that number of credit for English proficiency. So as you can see on screen, I put here the example from the University of Teacher Education in Ho Chi Minh City. So they have, that is the course they have for English proficiency. And these courses, not 10 courses, it would be through year 1 to year 3. So they would have, the student would have the English proficiency classes from year 1 to year 3. So they only have year 4 for major courses. Of course, they would have other major courses in year 3, but that session have I mean, actually take a lot of time of the student and lecturer at the university. So this university has 3 credit and they teach 3 credit. So here, for example, our neighbor university, they also have this listening, speaking, reading, writing, 1, 2, 3. So it is kind of the level that the student would go through. So that is, for example, very more complicated one. That is from the University of Foreign Language, Huế University. They separate the skill and they just put it 2 credit for each skill. And here, that is very long program. And here, that is our university. So you can see it is different in the name of the course, and it is also different in the number of credits. So in our university, we have, you can see the 1A, 1B. So you can see it is also in terms of talk about the level from, so it is 1, English 1, it would be like from elementary, pre-intermediate, and then pre-intermediate to inter, and then upper intermediate, and then advanced. But for our university, we do not separate the skill. We separate the social English and academic English. So English 1A or 2A, 3A, anything with A, it would be focusing on the social English. That is something like for communicative purpose. So we have many, you can see many textbook for of English for communicative purpose. And we have B. So any courses with B, it focus on academic English. So we try to have the student to separate the way they use English for communicative purpose and for their academic purpose. And you can see the last one, number 9 and number 10, it is C. So we have these courses to prepare students for the exam that they have to take before they leave the university. This makes sure that that is something kind of exam oriented courses to have them to get to know about the format of the exam, different format of the exams, and the exam skill. I mean the skill with dealing with the English exam. So that is what we are having currently in our English language teacher education program. So basically the English proficiency component in the curricula, we have been focusing on developing 4 skills of English, and all the program, as you can see, from Ho Chi Minh City to Huế, from the south to the center, or even to us in the north, most we have to start from very low level of English proficiency when students enter the university. Most of the time we have to start with A2, or there is something like a little bit above elementary of English proficiency level. And the English proficiency component is taught through year 1 to year 3. So for our university, we just have English proficiency component from year 1 to year 2. So and very intensively. And all the program have to target the learning outcome of C1 level. So that is all about the English proficiency education in ELT program in Vietnam. So what is so I will provide some background about the student who enter the ELT bachelor program in Vietnam, because the high school English program is not for skill based. It's not. The students just have 1 textbook, and English learning at high school is very highly exam oriented, because a student have to prepare for their university entrance exam, and it is also because kind of the national high school exam. So the teachers and the student under pressure of achieve high grade for the English exam so that they can get into the university. And also there's a different level of English proficiency between the student in the city and rural areas. So for example, take example about Hanoi and Lạng Sơn. Lạng Sơn is a mountainous province that we also have professional development training course for the teachers there. And actually the student there, their English proficiency is quite low. And they are not they even them, and also their speaking, their listening and writing skill is it is not the focus in the teaching program. They are more exam oriented than the student and the teachers, than what the student and teachers in Hanoi, in the cities, are doing. So that is about the context that we are having here about the English education. So I would like to talk more about the case of our university. So what we have been doing with the language proficiency component and English education at our university. So our recruitment policy, we have early recruitment that is prioritized for students who have the national or provincial award in high school subject, mostly in English, because we have that kind of exam at both provincial and national level. And we have a gifted school as well. So we also prioritize these students from the gifted school with very good academic performance. And another type of another policy of recruitment, we say we recruit students using the results of the 3 subjects for entering school. It is math, literature, and English. And English is the English grade is double. And however, the university entrance exam, I mean the exam that the student can use the result of the 3 subjects here, is written based, and it is kind of grammar based for English. So the student are tested about their English, their grammar, their written expression or structures. And started from 2020, we have a policy for early recruitment that the student with IELTS, TOEFL, or SAT certificates, and it has really brought a big change in the structure of the student entering our university. So that is, I just going back our program. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yes. So as you can see in the table, that is the number that we have in my faculty. So the type of student here, the type of student who with IELTS more than 7 point, higher than 7.5, that means C1 level. In 2019 and 20, we do not have any. But starting from the academic year of 2020 and to 2021, we have 25 students with IELTS 7.5 and 7.0 and 7.5. But last year is a very big change. We have more than 100 students with IELTS which is higher than 7. I think I have about 10 of them having 8 points. Yeah, having 8 in IELTS, very big, and they are very English proficiency is really good. So it then bring a big problem to our program, especially the English proficiency component. So as you can see, it is what we are having here. We have English courses from elementary level to advanced level. So that is from pre-intermediate, actually 1A, pre-intermediate to advanced. And it is for the purpose of the student achieve C1 level or 7-point IELTS before leaving the university. However, with the student entering us last year, here it is, we have more than 100 who already achieved their graduation requirement of C1 level. they even have more higher than that. So what we are doing, so the freshman student with 7-point IELTS, they can have a gap year. That means they do not have to learn English 1, English 1A, English 1B, or they can choose to jump to year 2 when they enter the university, which means that they still have to learn English proficiency courses, that is 3-1, 3B, yes, at intermediate to upper intermediate level. But still, we have in doing a survey with students and interviewing with the student, that is the problem that we found in our last academic year. The student joining year 2, the student who choose, the freshman student who choose to join year 2, they have a very hard time to register courses because they are just year 1. They still have some other courses, general courses they have to study with year 1. But now they jump to study with year 2 student in English proficiency courses. So that's a big problem for them and for our administration as well. And they think that the English proficiency courses is ineffective because they already have 7-point IELTS or 7.5 IELTS. So listening, speaking, or something is not a matter for them. And even our lecture, they found that the teaching material was not adequate. I mean, they have very little focus on academic English compared to the communicative, and they said that the student, even they have the 7 point or 7.5 IELTS English proficiencies, but still their academic writing to prepare for academic courses is not really good. So they thought, and they think that so that is what our lecturer tell us, and they found that both student and lecturer, they found that they have to change the learning approach. So they have to use more project-based, inquiry-based presentation to encourage the student in the English language classes, and it is more useful for them to developing English language competence. So that is what happened to our English education component in the recent year. So what we are doing, so we have just started to change the structure of English proficiency component in our program, and which will be applied for students entering our university this year. So we decided to divide our students on entering our university to 3 levels. So student with level 3, so who get the B1 level, they would have the still English proficiency courses, and we still double our teaching hours for English course. And another group of the student is a student with level 4. So that means it is B2 in terms of Sierra. And then another group of the student, it is our concern the most. It is student who already get 7.5 or 7.0 for their IELTS for the IELTS exam. So we are more focusing on, so for example, as you can see here, we have English for contemporary topics. It is more theme-based, and it is encourage active learning in the classroom. And we have college composition, we have public speaking instead of academic English or social English as others as before. So trying to focusing on the academic language skill for students, and some other English for business communication for language and media. So that is more theme-based instead of skill-based. So that is a summary of the change that we have done with our English proficiency component. So it would be since 2020, we would have proficiency-based courses still for those who are not at C1 level, and we have content-based courses, more content-based courses for students who have B2 level. I think they who already at intermediate or upper intermediate level of English proficiency. And in order to do that, we have to have English proficiency. Sorry. We have to have placement tests before we start the academic year, so that we can place a student in the right group. So that is about English education in Vietnam and English education at my university, and the change and the challenge that we are facing with. And we hope that in this academic year we would be able to adapt to the structure of students, and why more and more students are having from high school they have very good English proficiency, and what we are going to do to teach them at the university in the ELT education program. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Nhung, for your very brilliant presentation, very good and insightful. And we have so many questions that the presenters need to answer. But before we go to the questions, I would like to address one thing that between Indonesia and Vietnam, I think we have the same policy about treating the English as a foreign language, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we are in the same situation where we can't, we don't have the policy to make it as a daily habit to speak in English, because our government set English as a foreign language. That's why we use it, or we study it only in the context of school or university if we chose to study English. But other than that, we don't really use English for daily communication.
No.
So I guess that in that sense, Indonesia and Vietnam are similar. But okay, so thank you so much. So now we are going to take turn about the questions so that we can go through. I summarize it, so there are like 13 questions. I hope that there will be enough time to answer all these questions. Yeah, 13 questions from all the participants for both speakers. So if you want to ask the question directly, please raise your hand. And Nhung, could you please end your sharing screen sharing?
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, so if the participants would like to ask directly to the speakers, you are very welcome to do so. But first of all, I would like to read maybe the first question to Professor Colleen. So the first question is more to like, would you please kindly explain more related to andragogical principles that self-concept depend on learner to self-direction? In what way to self-direction? I'm confused about this question as well. So could you please give examples? So this is the question is for Professor Colleen. So if you could answer that, that would be great.
So self-direction is really talking about, so in terms of how the student, the learner is able to direct themselves in the learning. They have more of the ability to self-direct, and that's part of their self-concept, meaning that as an adult learner, I know that I can self-direct. What do we mean by that? Just in terms of, it can mean so many things in terms of the classroom, in terms of assignment. To give you some concrete examples, just self-direction in terms of the ability to turn over the class to the students. So I actually, when, I don't know, something as simple as, to be very concrete, something as simple as I'm teaching them parts of the brain and parts of the neuron, I turn it over to them. I say, you're going to teach each other. And so we get out crayons, we get out paper, and then they have to go, they're going to, I give them a list. These are the things you have to label. We've got to know these definitions. I turn it over to them. They go on the board, they start drawing. They're actually directing the learning in the classroom. You can have self-direction on the projects that you give them in terms of them making choices. It's really about giving them a lot of choices, a lot of autonomy, because they can do that as adult learners. You're going to allow them to direct what direction and how. You're less likely, I mean, not saying you can't in youth-centered learning. You know, I did teach high school some years back that you can't ever give over the classroom. But that's tough with, you know, even teenagers. But with adult learners, absolutely, absolutely, you can give them more opportunity to direct the learning, not only choosing what, you know, some of my colleagues let them choose assessments, like here's a list and you get to choose the assessment that you're going to do here. So I'm hoping that's answering your question. It's really about giving them control and giving them choices because they are able to self-direct.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Pami.
Yes.
If you have more, maybe you would
Yes,
like to elaborate on that.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so move on to the next question. I think it's still related a little bit to what you have just explained. There is like, how do we handle? I mean, like I also teach adult students, right? I deal with andragogy, and as a lecturer myself, we have we deal with some of our students are adult, but young adult as well. But at our department, mostly are adults. So there's one question from one of the participants, like, how do you deal with like adult learner who act like children? So they are actually, it's an andragogy, but they act like, behave like pedagogy. So this kind of like, it happens from time to time. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, oh, that never happens.
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, no. So absolutely. You know, so there's a couple of thoughts on that. I think often, sometimes they haven't been given the opportunity. There's so much kind of top down, here's what you need to do. And so they haven't been given the opportunity to do that. To the extent with some students, if you are giving them the opportunity, and it's not easy. I mean, you have to kind of set that at the beginning, and really by the end of the term, my goal is to really get them to move, not just in assessments and learning the content, but really get them to move toward being able to self-direct. So yeah, not everybody's walking into the classroom able to do that. And I know myself, I was very quiet and shy as a freshman. And I tell my students that, and part of their grade is interaction in the classroom, as I mentioned. And I say that first day, I said, I'm going to not force you, I'm going to encourage you. And my hope by the end of the term is that if you are quiet, you are going to interact. And I'm in the last few weeks of class, and this is actually my spouse, my husband is a teacher too. And we say these last few weeks are often the best of the term, because now you have the students through the course, you know, he teaches at the same college. You now have gotten them where they're part of this process. They want to be there. They want to interact, but it is a process. So that's my first, is that they've just not been given that chance often. And it is a process throughout the term to get them to that point where even the quieter ones are talking. Do you occasionally have students though that really, I don't know, we have a phrase, get with the program, that they won't, you know, they don't come along? Absolutely. I'm a psychologist. I think it's sometimes a gender where we know with brain development, boys are a little bit later. And so, and not just, I mean, we do know, you know, and so sometimes, you know, I tend to find with my some of my younger male students, I'll have them in office hours, and it's just a lot of one-on-one. We are wonderfully situated at our college that the most we have in a classroom is 31. So we have a lot of ability to do one-on-one. I meet with students. I'm willing to work one-on-one, because you're right, they don't all come individual differences. They're all at different stages, but I approach it as they can do this. And I tell them that you can do this. I know you can. And I meet with them one-on-one, but you're absolutely right that they don't all come totally intrinsically motivated and buying into this. But my goal is to get them to, to do some of this by the end and get part of that process. So I hope I answered it.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next one, probably this can be answered by Dr. New, and also probably Professor Colin can respond to this as well. How to encourage English adult learners involving in teaching learning on campus? Because I'm not sure whether, do you have adult students, New, in your university? New? Dr. New, are you there?
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I just want to know that there is a question here that I think you can answer this one as well. How to encourage English adult learners involving in teaching learning on campus. So probably if you have like adult students where maybe you have some experiences in having some challenges, because it's kind of like difficult to have adult students who are not motivated to learn. So I just want to know, this is like Diaz wants to know how to encourage English adult learners on campus. Maybe, but Diaz, you want to elaborate your question more?
Sorry, Siti.
Yeah.
I just have the vice president calling me. So, and
Oh,
we talk a little bit long. Yes. About
okay. So would you like to answer the question, or do you want to stay on the call?
So that is question about I mean, what's it mean about the encourage because the student is also a adult learner.
Yeah.
So what does that mean in about? I mean, can you repeat the question, which is relating to something about motivation?
Yes. Okay. So how to encourage English adult learners? Because sometimes, adult students probably have difficulties in finding the motivation to study because of the activities that they have outside the university, and like personal life, families and everything, jobs, whatever. So how do you encourage, how do you motivate your students to?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Actually, in our university, we have outside classes. We have many activities for students, and but first of all, in class, we have some. I just mentioned something about active learning. When the student enter the university, they are a little bit shocked with the way the teachers, the lecturer work with the student in the university. Is not the same as at school anymore. So the student have to self-study more. And in order to encourage the student to show their competence and to try, most of the time we have students work in group and they work with the project in English. Even for like they have to go out to interview the tourists, and then they have some kind of presentation about that, or they have to do a video recording. Introducing something. So it is based on the theme that we have in the English course. So that is about the inside class. But outside class, we have a club, and most of we have volunteer activities. We have many volunteer activities that we ask the student to participate in. And it is a part of their what we call internship portfolio. The students are encouraged to have the internship as soon as they enter the university and as soon as they get used to university learning environment. So so I think by the second semester of the first year, we introduce the student to the internship portfolio, which requires the student to attend the conference, to have some activity like teachings at English centers, or have private class, or attending having some kind of club activities that they can use their English or their language competence and the teaching competence. So because they are trained to be English language teachers, so teachings is a big part of their internship portfolio. So while they do the teaching or tutoring, they have to improve their English at the same time. So that is the way we put the student in the context that, and something what we call force them to learn and force them to move, yes, with their English proficiency. Of course, English proficiency is a part of that because they are trained to be teachers. So teaching profession is also very important. But yeah, so that is the way we do to maintain the student motivation.
Okay, so you do it systematically, right? Because it's by system, so they can't say no.
No, they can't say no. But and still, of course, why and the student in the last few years, student they I think they like the internship portfolio because they can active in choose which place they would like to teach. Even in our program, we have the practicum. We have practicum, which is compulsory, and they have to go to secondary school, primary school, any kind of school to do practicum. But in addition to practicum, they have internship portfolio as well.
I see.
So yeah, this is a very long term from year one. So they find their motivation in their activities as well.
I see. Okay, so it's really excellent because they can't say no, so they have some obligation about following this policy from the university.
And and then they find it's very natural to do that. It's not something like
Okay, so your student can't escape, right? Okay, so probably Professor Colleen, would you like to add some more about this kind of about how to encourage students from your point of view?
Yeah, I'll probably focus on within the classroom. Our students spend, especially our adult learners, most of them spend very little time on campus because of their obligations. They are there, they're in class, and then they're off to their many things. And so within that's where I find the motivation. I get, like I said, we have 31 students, so I really get to know my students. And I really believe in getting them to share what they want in terms of their lives, their experiences, their goals, where they're transferring to, and bringing it into the classroom. That's how I get them motivated. I mean, we were teaching to every class period, it's about getting them to share, to apply. I don't want to teach them anything that they're not going to apply to their life, to their job, whatever it is, to their kids, to their work. We were teaching operant conditioning with Skinner and, rewards and punishments. We had one of the students said, "Oh, that reminds me of what I've done with my dog." And I said, "Oh, tell us about it." And she said, "I taught my dog to say car keys, and they go and they find the car keys." And she had taped it. And I said, "Let's see it." And she pulled it out and she shared it with the whole class. And she really had gotten the concepts and applied it and was so excited about sharing it with the entire class. And so that's how I motivate them, that getting that intrinsic, hey, this is really relevant to me. I can see the connection. This is fun. That's where I'm at in the classroom. I tell my students, I'm not going to talk at you. I tell them the first day, you're going to be talking. It's interactive, because if I sit here and this is actually hard for me to do this kind of talk, because this isn't how I teach, and it's very like, me kind of talking at you. And I tell my students, I joke with them and I say, if I have to sit here and listen to myself for the entire hour or hour and a half, I'm going to get bored. So, you have to. And the other trick I do too, I wait them out. This is something I've learned, is that you have to wait. You have to be okay to get them in the classroom. You have to be okay with that silence, and just waiting. And I tell them too, I joke with them. I tell them, I'm a parent. I've got 5 kids. I can outwait all of you guys. So, making it fun and joking. And that's the experience within the classroom. So,
all right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. The next question is from Bintang. Bintang, would you like to present your question, your own? Probably because this seems like interesting experience on your part. Bintang, are you here? Bintang?
Yes, I'm here, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So would you like to present your question to Professor Kaling yourself?
All right. So this is based on my personal experience. I have 2 groups of students, and they are on the same class. So they are those who are teens and those who are adults, over than 20 and up to 40s, yeah, in their 40s. So basically, they are on the same class, but they have the totally different behavior. And sometimes when I want to deliver a basic materials in English, some like introduction or congratulation and any other basic materials of English, I can do like singing and demonstrating with some TPR in a fun way in front of the teens, but it doesn't work on the adults because they don't hesitate to come up with spontaneous, random, and pointless comments, and sometimes it gets embarrassing, their comments. And I wonder if you could suggest me dealing with the adults. Should I keep going with this approach, or should I change it? If I do change my approach, it means that I will apply to different approaches in single class. That is my question, Prof. Thank you.
So I guess I would. So it's hard to say what's going on in the classroom, but if it was me, I would say I would keep trying. It may be new to those adult learners. And I'll give you an example. I have my students do very silly things sometimes. As adults, we're not used to that. We're used to be coming in and being very serious. It's learning time, and and you're the professor, so teach me. And so I'll tell you what I've done with my students, and I would keep trying. So the example that came into my head just now is, again, operant conditioning, where I'm trying to, and it's a very boring topic for students in psychology. It's like the rats and the dogs and the training and all this terminology, and students usually yawn and go, oh, how does this apply to my life? So I do silly stuff with that, where I bring in little candies and they have to shape each other using the candies. They can't speak. They can only hand out little tiny candies to shape behavior. And, and they feel kind of silly because I say, pick something that you want to get people to do. Like, you want them to touch their nose or, jump up in it, whatever it is, but you have to use these only candies. And there's all these principles that we're teaching in the language and stuff. And they do at first, they kind of look around the room, these adults, and and it's funny because if you say, no, we're going to do this, and you, by the end of the assignment, they're really getting into this. They started out I don't know, this seems really silly. I'm an adult and you're asking me to use little M&M treats to try and get someone to do a jumping jack or touch their nose or whatever it is, but they love it. And by the end, the whole room, I have to like get them, you know, to stop talking and come back to class for a second or come back to what we're talking about. So it's hard to say what's going on in that class. If you had one or two individuals, you might want to, you know, meet with them separately and say, you know, if that maybe might be driving that, but I would stick with it. I think we should be having fun. I mean, you guys are an educator. I totally think we should be having fun when we're teaching. And I wouldn't have been doing this for over 20 years if I had to do it kind of the old fashioned kind of top down. I am totally with you. I want to play with it. I want to have fun. I want to be silly. I mean, because we can do that when we learn, you know. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that exactly like what you were saying. Yes, that is the condition when I was teaching my adult students. Yeah, it makes me look silly, but yeah, I just keep on going. But it's okay after all. Thank you, Prof. Thank you. That was so inspiring.
You're
I guess
welcome.
that
Good luck.
really encouraged me to keep on being silly to my students.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's an excellent discussion between the both of you. So the next one, I think this could be implemented like for both presenters. Diaz and Fitri would like to know how do we deal with adult learners who are preparing themselves to become English teacher, and it's also like English adult learners in the Asian of like in the context of Asian university. Probably you can give more information about how you deal with your students, and then Professor Colleen, you can address the issue on how to deal with the adult students who are preparing themselves to become English teachers. So these are the two questions I combine at once, and because it's like quite similar. So yeah, okay. Would you please? Yeah, whoever you wants to answer first. Maybe.
I think
yeah.
from our university experience, is talking about. I don't think we have something what we call the best language learning strategies to be implemented, because it depends a lot on the learner. And I mean, we're talking about inclusive, or what we call differentiation in language teachings and language learning. Recently, we talked a lot about that. So the language learning and teaching should be customized to the competence and to the more about the competence and the ability of the student. So in that way, these strategies, like I just talk about project-based strategies, can be very good, can be the best one for those like the student. We have the IELTS 7.5 entering the university. They are very interested in doing project because they already have really good English already. But for the student who have very low level of English, they are not interested in that because they do not have English proficiencies to do project, to write it, to present it. So for those students, the best learning strategies for them, the best learning and teachings is we have to go back to listening, speaking, reading, and writing very traditionally. It is very difficult. And then when they have a kind of, they accumulate a certain amount of English, and then they become confident enough to present, to write their own project. So by that time, we project-based can be applied. So I think it should be very the best or proper language learning strategies should be based on the the competence of the student. So that's why we divided the student in different group in terms of proficiency level.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nyung, for your explanation. And I sort of like Professor Colleen, this one is like based on your experience working with Indonesian students, probably you have like some familiarity with how you deal with Asian students or probably Indonesian students. And this is like Diaz's question about what is the best or proper language learning strategy to be implemented to English adult learners in the context of Asian university students, based on your experience working with Indonesian students. So what's your take on it?
So I've given seminars. So to be clear, I haven't done like where I've had my own classroom. So I have taught some basic classes in psychology. So I don't know that I feel confident commenting on that. I've really come in as a guest lecturer at Atmajaya, and I was teaching master level psychology and drug use, specific kind of topical information. So I don't know, I think that's probably beyond what I can comment on. It was really guest type of presentations.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you anyway. And there's the next question from Taufik. Taufik, would you like to present your question to Dr. Nyung yourself? Taufik?
Thank you very
Taufik?
much for...
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. My first question is to Miss Colleen. Hello, Miss Colleen. Okay. Long time ago, I studied English in the English course at Pare Kediri, East Java. Most of the students are adult learners, graduation from senior high school, and some of them graduation from university. After 6 months, they were able to speak English. The problem is about the pronunciation. It's so difficult for the adult learner like me at the time to speak English like Miss Colleen, and so Indonesian style. Is it problem? Is it problem for the native speaker like Miss Colleen? If this is a problem, how is the best solution overcome to our friend? I mean, for the adult learner to study English, to improve their pronunciation. And my second question to Ms. Nguyen. You said that on 2018, Vietnam has changed the regulation starting the learning English from 6 to 12, changed to be 3 or 4, 3 to 4 years. Is it has the the advantage for the civilization in Vietnam? I mean, the progress in learning English in Vietnam, because in Indonesia, starting or the beginning of learning English is in the 13 years old. I mean, the 7th grade of student junior high school. And in the new curriculum, Merdeka Belajar, it's English only 3 hours a week. I think in Indonesia, learning English as foreign language is very difficult. I mean, in this occasion, I would like to Ms. Nguyen to give motivation, because Vietnam and Indonesia has the same condition. I think this is my question. Thank you, Bu Nung, Ms. Colleen, and Ms. Nung. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, please. Yeah, okay, whoever wants to respond first.
So Colleen first, please.
Pardon?
Yeah, okay.
Please, you first.
Okay.
Oh. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm the person to answer on terms of. I think your question was on better learning
pronunciation
skills. Right.
Yeah.
I do have students in the classroom, English as a second language, but I'm primarily focused on the content of psychology and teaching within the classroom. And then we have support systems at our college for students that are English as a second language, where I work with getting them the resources that they need. So beyond that, because I'm not a language teacher, I feel like that is beyond my expertise, and I'll defer to my colleague.
Yeah, I think I can have Colin a little bit with the first questions about improving pronunciation for students, and even for the school teachers as well, because for our university we have been doing a lot of professional training for school teachers in different areas, especially in multinational area, and their speaking and pronunciation is also a big problem, because they do not have the chance to talk with native speaker, or they do not use English very frequently like us at the university. So what we do in our class is we ask the student, each time we have a kind of pronunciation lesson, we ask students to come home to record it. I give them a few words and then they record it, and then they submit to we have a Google Drive or folder, and then the student would submit the recording to the teachers. Maybe the teachers do not have the time to listen to all of the recording, but they each day coming to the class, she would randomly check, and then because it is an anonymous, no name on that, so she would use that recording in the classroom to ask the student about that person in the recording, whether that pronunciation has a problem. I mean, the student have to reflect themselves about with that recording, and they have to identify if they have any problem with with the pronunciation. So it is actually it is quite consuming activities for students, but we have to do that with the student, especially at the low level. When they enter the university, they are just A2 level, so elementary, and their pronunciation, of course, is the worst things, because as the teachers do not focus on speaking and pronunciation. So that's the way we do with low-level student in terms of pronunciation. There's some activities, yeah. So most of the time, I have to say, we encourage the student to self-study. So by doing the recording, they at least they speak out one time, and they listen one time, listen of their own pronunciation. Yeah, something like that. Listen to their own pronunciation. Yeah. So that is the first, the answer for the first question. And for the second questions about the national curriculum, for the new national curriculum in Vietnam, I think the government is trying, putting a lot of effort in encourage the student and I mean to have the younger generation of Vietnam to be able to speak English better, at least foreign language. And we require the student to speak English to learn English from year 3. Actually, year 3 is compulsory, but some schools, especially in the city, they started to introduce English to students from year 1 to year 2. Very that is introducing, learning some words, and actually it is the way we are trying to make English as a kind of the second or the most popular foreign language. And for the concern about teaching English for students at the age of 13, is that too late or not? I think from Vietnamese experience, we used to teach English for students. I think in the last century, 2020, in 1990s, something like that. We start to teach English for students from year 10, only 3 years, only at high school. And then that is really, really big problem for students entering the university. And after 2000, we started to teach English from year 6 to year 12. That means when they enter the secondary school, about 12 years old, they started to learn English. And we also have only 3 hours a week as in Indonesia. For public school, only 3 hours of English a week. However, the school, they also have what we call the additional or what we call supplement hours in the afternoon for students to learn English as well. So, for example, in the town that we come to have them recently, each school they have 4 hours in the afternoon to teach English as well. So basically, which student have 7 hours. There's no way to increase English proficiency of students except for increasing the number of teaching hours. Otherwise, it will be very difficult requirement for the teachers as well. Because in 3 hours, the teachers cannot do a lot, especially in a big class. In our public school, we have about 40 or even 50 students in one class. So it is very difficult for the teachers to do any kind of activities. And one thing I think it is also very important is the parent. We found that the parent has a very important role in encouraging or in promoting or improving the English learning, creating a very good English learning trend in our countries. So it is a kind of circle, something like that. So when the university require the student to have English when they graduate, the student have to find a way to learn as soon as possible. And then they come to, we have to learn when we are still at school. And so by doing that, it's kind of the policy from early level to higher education level. So that's why in my presentation, I talk about English education at school level and higher education level as well. The government has policy for both school and higher education. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for the teachers and school to improve the English education. Yeah, and I think that's what I can say. If you are not clear, yeah, you can ask more.
Thank you so much. That's very elaborated answer. I guess also this answers the questions from Bu Utami. This already been answered. So we're going to move on to the next question. How many percent from educated people to speak English? Is it? Do you have the percentage?
Actually, I'm not sure. I just tell the story that we started our national project on foreign language since 2008. So by that time, English proficiency and English speaking is not really good. But now, after like nearly 12 years, more than 10 years, I think what I can say now, every family, every school, and every parent, every student are more and more concerned about learning English. So it is a very long-term process. And I think Vietnamese is, as I say, trying to make that. I remember that our Minister of Education, they say our country should be like a Singapore, being able to speak language, Vietnamese and English on the street. So that is what we are aiming at. And I think our generation, our children's generation, they are able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nhung. The next question is from Denny Satya. Denny, would you like to present your question to Colleen?
Oh, lucky.
I heard that. Denny. Denny Satya.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So please, yeah, you can direct your questions to Professor Colleen.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Colleen, my question is it okay if the teachers give punishment to the young learners if they don't accomplish their task? And the second one is, what is the best way to motivate them to be more responsible to their education? Thank you.
So I got the last one on motivation. What was it? Is it okay to use, just writing so I don't forget, punishment?
Punishment, yes, for the young learners, because I teach in SMP in junior high school in Indonesia.
Ah, okay. So, well, I'll put on my, so I've taught high school, not junior high. I have friends that teach junior high. So as we say, my hat's off to you. That's wonderful. You're teaching junior high. That's as my developmental psychology, that's a really tough age. In terms of punishment, I will put on my psychology hat. When I've done parenting classes as a psychologist, and I define punishment as you're coming in and saying, this is the behavior I don't want you to do. Whereas, that's tougher. It's to come in and use punishment because you don't want them to be afraid of school. So as a psychologist, let me give you an example and see if this makes sense. I would focus on positive reinforcements and negative reinforcements. Let me give an example, and I teach this concept to my intro psychology students. And here's an example as a parent. So there's, and you can maybe apply this to teaching as well, but there's always a battle to get, and you can apply this in the class. There's always a battle, to get the teenager or the junior high student to clean their room. There's a perpetual battle. Parents say, clean your room, and you want to do this. There's many ways to get them to do this. You can use positive reinforcement. Oh, good job. You did a wonderful job, and use that. But of course, parents always say when we're doing training, well, if I wait for them to do that, I'm never, they won't do that. Well, you do little rewards to shape that. You don't wait for a spotless room. You might say, oh, it's wonderful that some of your clothes made it in the laundry hamper, into the dirty clothes pile. But in terms of addressing the punishment, that's one way, is to the extent you're using those positive reinforcers to focus on the behavior you want versus focusing on the behavior you don't want. So see if this part makes sense. So instead of punishment, what you want to say is, as soon as you have this, you can go do something. Like in our house, doing the dishes. I could say you didn't do the dishes, and so the punishment is you're we have a phrase, grounded. You can't go anywhere with your friends. Well, the problem is the dishes are still there. You're not going to do them. You're just going to sulk around the house. So a better way to say, and you do this in education and parenting with kids, is to say, as soon as you do this, you can do what it is, this, you get to go out with your friends. So I don't know if I'm clear. I'm trying to, like, in a nutshell, kind of what we teach in parenting classes and what we teach educators is, instead, I'm not saying there's not consequences, absolutely, as a psychologist, but letting the students choose. And there's some, I guess I would say there's some good resources on this in psychology. If you look at some of the using, the keywords are using positive reinforcement and using negative reinforcement instead of using punishment. And so if you look up that negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement instead of punishment, you'll get a whole bunch of resources in education and parent training. And again, it's giving consequences, but the idea is you get to choose, and you're making choices so that you're kind of steering them into the right choices. So I never said, okay, for my kids, like, okay, you don't have to do the dishes, but until you do them, you know, you're going to have to hang around with me and your dad. You don't get to go out with your friends. So that's different than punishment, right? Because I say, you know, you say, okay, you didn't do your chore. Go to your room. You're grounded. That's the worst thing you can do on a Friday night or a Saturday night to a teenager. And it's the worst thing you can do for yourself, right? Because now you're stuck with the teenager who's sulking in their room. But if you say, as soon as you're done doing whatever it is, you can go do this. So I'm hoping I'm making kind of sense. Those are huge concepts in psychology that we try to apply to teaching and parenting. So
yeah, I hope that answers your question, Jenny. It's very elaborative from Colleen.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your answer.
Do you have any more questions, maybe? No. No. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So moving on to the next questions to Nhung. It's very interesting to know Vietnam educational national education system. And regarding teacher education regulation, the candidate should have C1 CEFR. Does your language education department have MOU with international language standards, such as British Council? Is it successful? So Amin want to know about this.
Yes. So as I say, maybe during my presentation, I was afraid that I may run out of time. So I do not talk a lot about the framework. I mean, I talk about the 6th level of language proficiency framework for Vietnam, which is applied for Vietnam only. So basically, I don't know why, but Vietnamese people we want to do to have our own framework. So for our university, we do not have any MOU or contract with any organization in order to check or to test the English proficiency of our students. So we use for those who already have IELTS, C1 IELTS, 7.0, 7.5 IELTS when they enter the school university, they do not have to take the what do you say, the stats that when they graduate. They have to get C1. So our university organized a kind of test for students to make sure that they achieve the C1 level. And that test is designed by our university ourselves. We have our testing and assessment center, which is also the establishment of that center is supported by professor from the America, and they support us in contextualize and designing the criteria for in terms of English proficiency for 4 skills for Vietnamese people. And I think it is not very much different from a CEFR framework, but we have our own framework and we have our own exam. That's what we call VSTEP, that is Vietnamese standardized test of English proficiency. And our test actually is accepted by Germany University when the student and our student go there for exchange, or even a university in America, they accepted that result equivalent to IELTS. So I think that is we have our own testing system.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that answered the question from Amin. And we have more questions still related to English proficiency. Do you occupy an open access link to measure the students' proficiency, such as EFSET or .org? So this is an online platform where your student can do an online test, or is there any other way that you conduct the test to make sure that your students have this test? Is it through online platform, or did you do it in your university?
We did it in our university. We do it in our university.
Okay.
We do not use any platform.
Oh, okay. But you use the same framework.
We use the same framework. Yeah.
I see.
So during COVID-19 and the last years, we are not able to. The students are not able to come to the university. So we just put our tests online. So students, we do not use any third-party platform.
I see. Okay, yeah, that answers. Thank you. And then the next question is about the C-level requirement for the students. Do the universities provide any material or special course or a kind of preparation course apart from the skill courses, which particularly goes in reaching the required level? So did you prepare your student with a series of training before they do the test? Or is it something like that?
Yeah, actually in our program, as I already show in the slide, we have 2 courses that prepare students for the exam. That is English 3C and English 4C. So these 2 courses are very exam oriented. So we in these courses we teach the student analyze. We have the student to analyze the testing point, like IELTS, how they test you, or TOEFL, how they test you in reading, speaking, and writing. And then we make a comparison with the VSTEP, I mean our own test. And by analyzing the test, the student and also the student are also prepared for the the testing technique. Yeah. In these 2 courses. But I think the most important is for the student is preparing them with enough English proficiencies. So any kind of test they can pass. We have only 2 courses, 3 credits for each to prepare student for the exam. Yeah. And if the students are not able to pass, some of them are not able to pass. They can repeat taking the test repeatedly until they get it.
Okay. Fake it till you make it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next one is from Diaz. Diaz, would you like to present your questions to you? Yes, would you like to present your question?
Okay. Wait. Okay, to Ms. Nguyen,
yeah.
It is based on your own experience. What are actually the problem mostly appears in teaching English at the theory level in Vietnam? I mean, maybe in university levels. So what is actually the problems mostly appears while you are teaching your students at your university?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for the question. So at my university, actually, my university is responsible for teaching English for other member university, Vietnam National University. So that means besides, in addition to our students who major in English to become teachers of English, we also have to teach English for students of other major as well. So like a student of technology major, economics, social science. So for those 2 group of students, we have different problems. For students who are not major in English, their requirements of English is lower. So as I say, they have to get B1 level. And of course, we have the most problem with these students because it is not their, their priority, because they are students of technology. So that's not their priority. we have their motivation is not very good. They just want to achieve the proficiency that is required, the level required by the university to get out of the university. And the problem we have with them is why they are what do you say? They are not very attentive, and they quit the class. However, we and for those students, we still have to test them for skill, even at B1 level for skill. So normally, the speaking skill is the worst one, of course, and I don't think we have any way with any solution for that. Only just try to encourage the student to learn. But of course, among those who do not want to learn, there are many students. They are aware of the importance of English in that job, in that coming in the future. For example, economics, in business and in technology, they still need English. So for those students they are doing very well. So for those who major in English, their problem is what is that? Well, what is their problem? Their problem is well, I don't think there's much. We do not have much any significant problem with those students. So the student because they have to achieve the C1 level before they leave the university, before they graduate. So if they are not able to achieve that, they cannot. So that's why it is a kind of pressure on them, and they have no way that they have to try the best in the class to pass the exam.
Okay.
And sometimes for those who are not able to pass exam, we have to they have to retake the exam as well. So still we try to put them in those kind of exams so that they can pass it. But of course, when graduate with C1 level, we have C1 this, C1 that. That is not very hard. Some are not very how to say, very well.
Okay.
Okay. So
yeah.
Regarding with English education department in your university,
Yeah.
based on your outline of curriculum, is there any other subjects like discourse studies or linguistics, something like that?
Yes, besides English proficiency, we have other courses in English language, like the discourse analysis, grammar, phonetics, semantics. We have other courses as well. So I think and literature, and what is say, we have the literatures as well. We have cultural study as well about English speaking countries. So these courses also support the student to improve their English proficiency as well, because all of these courses are taught in English. So only courses about Vietnam, we teach that in Vietnamese. And for other courses, I think if we talk about the years, divided the courses in years, the student only have the Vietnamese, the courses in Vietnamese for the first years, and the other year they have to take it in English. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on my own experience teaching English for even university level students, even though they have special in English education, it is still difficult in customizing communicative competence and academic competence. So how do you encourage this to be customizations between communicative purposes and academic purposes to be melted?
So as at my university, I think my university is the only university in Vietnam to divide English proficiency courses into two. We do not base on skill, we base on the purpose, as you say. We have social English and we have academic English. So by doing that, we can separate the communicative purpose for student in social English. So in that course, we try to focus on the communicative, like a speaking, listening, reading, and writing. But just for communicative, like just what we are talking here. But for academic English, we are more focusing on very academic theme. We based on theme, very many technical terms, and focusing on, especially for writing. Writing is the most important skill in academic English. So we teach them how to write a paragraph, how to write different kind of essay, how to do paraphrasing, how to do even with plagiarism and citation. So we have to teach them all that to prepare them for major courses in teaching, because when they have to do graduation paper when they graduate. So that is for that graduation paper, they have to learn academic English a lot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the brightfulness, Ms. Nguyen. Dr. Nguyen, thank you.
Thank you. I hope my answers can help.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That answers like many questions at once, because we have similar questions all the way to the top, from top to the bottom, but it has been answered with your elaborated explanation. And I hope Utami also finds it insightful that Ms. Nhung already answered the problem that you proposed. And now we move to the next question. To Faiza, would you like to present your question to Professor Khalil? Faiza?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, please, thank you.
Okay. I think my question is similar to Mrs. Utami questions. Mrs. Cullen says that adult learning is different from children's, and it is also in the way of teaching. And one of the obstacles in learning foreign language acquisition is the age factor. I mean, the older we get, the lower our memory and the lack of supporting motivation around our environment. And there is also a lot of work to be done by us. And my question is there a certain strategy so that adult learner like me can quickly master foreign language so that we can easily practice our English to communicate to others, both in written and spoken? That's all, my question.
Okay, so please, Colleen, you respond. The question is for you.
So if I'm getting the question correctly, and please let me know if I'm not, you're talking about how it's more difficult to learn language as you get older?
Acquisition, yes, because the older we get, the lower memorize we have.
Absolutely.
I feel
In
like
fact,
that.
Yes, we know that when you learn a language as an adult, you're processing it in a different area of the brain, and you process it differently than if you were exposed as a child. So we're struggling with that as adults as well. I don't know that I have any strategies other than practice, practice, and practice. And it's unfair, but
yes.
I like to say, so I never was exposed to music. I'll give you the equivalent of my example with music. And it's the same thing, learning music, learning a language as an adult. One of my sons wanted to play the piano, and this is years ago. He's my adult son now. And so I decided I'd learn it with him. And to this day, he played for a couple years and then decided he didn't want to do it again. I stuck with it. And now it's been over a decade. I think he still plays better than me. He's played other instruments since, I should say. But, you know, it's definitely more practice to for any of those things. We know that from psychology, but it's unfair. We have to practice twice as hard, twice as long to, you know, as adults when we're learning something new. It can be done. I felt pretty good. I was playing the piano the other day and my husband came along and said, "Hey, you're sounding better." So it's I don't know if that's I don't have any, since I'm not a language teacher, my field psychology, but it can be done. It just in terms of the plasticity of the brain, we know we can learn as adult learners, but that when I was talking about the fluid versus crystallized intelligence, that fluid intelligence, that's harder as we get older. The experiences, the facts, that tends to grow and grow and grow. I don't know if I'm answering your question well or not. I mean, it can be done, but it's definitely harder, languages and piano and some of these things that we want to do as adults. I'm not for giving up because it can be done. Am I answering your question? No? Yes?
Okay. Okay, Miss Cullen. I think the more we practice, the faster we learn. Like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you have to, you know, because it's going to be harder for us as adult learners, no matter what it is. But but I will leave with this. All of the research suggests to continue learning throughout the lifespan. And it's so important the older we get for offsetting dementia and all of these other declines that we may have in very later adults. So it's a positive thing. I'm for lifelong learning on language, art, music, all of these things for the health of our brains.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for the nice explanation.
Okay. Okay, so I think we have like one or two last questions for this session. For you, maybe you can share to us about some of English learning models that are applied at schools in Vietnam so that the students will be able to learn English as well. So I'm not sure whether you have answered this question or not, but there is one for you. So maybe you can share some insights on it.
Oh, I see. You mean that at school level, primary, secondary?
Yeah, I think that's what they meant. Lina, is that what you mean? Like for school in primary or secondary school? Lina?
Not high school.
Yes, that's right.
Oh,
because because most students here have very low motivation in learning English. They feel that studying English is very hard for them. So please share to us about the interesting model of learning English in Vietnam, so that we can try to apply in our school. Yeah, I mean like that.
See.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I see. So my first question about the English hour at school. So we also have only 3 hours of English at school every week, because it is just a subject beside other subject as well. So in our national foreign language program, and and luckily that I also participate into that project as a member. We develop that's what we call the handbook for the handbook for school to encourage the student to learn and use English. So by doing that activity is a kind of extracurriculum outside classroom activities and also inside classroom activity as well. We have that guidebook to support the teachers at school to organize some activities to have the student, to motivate the student to learn English. For example, I can remember one activity that I came to observe the school teachers to apply to their student is how to say 1 word a day. Yes, so for each day, even the English teacher, she cannot come to the class because she only has 3 hours at that class, but she has a box at that class, and in that box she put the English words for the lesson she had last week, and each day she came maybe just 5-minute break. She come to the class and check and have the student to find in the box 1 word, and if the student is able to speak out that word, so they would get a kind of reward or sticky note for being able to do that. So that is just one part of the activities. And then they have, for primary school, they decorate the class with English word everywhere, and within school, inside the school ground, playground as well. And sometimes the primary school teachers, they organize treasure hunt activities. So the student, they say, oh, please come to find me some words about the fruit. So the student would run around all the school to find the words. And in order to do that, the teachers have to work together. So that primary school, they have about 3 or 4 teachers of English only. So they need the assistance from the teachers of art and to help them to draw and to make that card very attractive and interesting for students as well. And also at secondary school and high school level, the teachers of English, they work with the teachers of other subjects to have the student to develop some questions about other courses like about geography, biology, math, literature, history, all the courses, and the teachers, the student develop the question themselves, and the teachers would correct them with English use, and they would use those questions for like a Monday English, what to say, golden bell or something like that. So if the student can answer the question, they get the reward. They can organize it among the class or for the whole school on the assembly day or for their class only. So by doing that kind of activity, students, how to say, they learn English in a more natural way. We just want the student to learn English in a more natural way by use that in the context. They use that for what is say for writing the questions about the history, or they can use they organize some kind of activities like a recycling day. So the student makes some recycling product, and they have to introduce that to the parent and the teachers, so that the parent maybe they would be able to pay for that. So that's what we are trying to do at the school, encourage the teachers to do. And even now, every year when we come to the school to do professional training for the school teachers, we still help them with planning and organizing such activity for their students. So I think that's one way we apply to motivate the student to learn English, and also make the teachers to be more close with the student in learning process. I think that is my answers.
Okay, that is very elaborated answers. Thank you so much, Young.
Yes.
And
thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. I hope that you are happy with the answer, Paulina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's very interesting, I think, because every day, the students always study English in the classroom, so they
Yes.
cannot study English naturally.
Right.
Maybe
The
next time.
student, yeah, the student, they are very energetic, so they do not want to sit at one place, study English, so they can study by doing other things.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
very much. That's very interesting. Maybe
Okay.
next time I will try it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Polina and Nhung.
Yes.
Okay, one last question for Professor Colin. This is, I guess, this has been answered, but probably you would like to make a closing remark about how to create a happy classroom, and also concludes the whole presentation as well. So this is from Yeni. How to create a happy classroom for adult learners so they will enjoy the class and not feel frustrated, because in general, adult learners learn while they do the work. So yeah, okay, so please, Colleen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, making it fun. And I guess what I'd like to close with is pick one thing to do. Don't just go off and say, okay, I'm going to just do all of these, 100 things. Pick one or two and say, these are a couple of things I'm going to work on, be it giving more direction, or maybe just one assignment where you're going to give control over to the students in the classroom. That's what I would say. Start small if you haven't thought of doing this before, and I'm constantly changing it every term, thinking of new ideas and getting new ideas from the students all the time. I mean, that's why I've been able to do it, like I said, for well over 20 years now. That's what keeps it fun. It's going to make it more fun for you as the professor, as the instructor. And I don't know, I'm driven by that. So that's my intrinsic motivation, is that I want it fun. I want to be, happy when I show up for work. And by doing that with the students, they're happier, I'm happier, and there's joy. I will stop doing this when there's no longer joy, but I have the best job in the world. We do. I mean, we get paid, we get to spend, we get to have our job and our career, and we get to do this. I'm amazed that someone pays me to continue to learn throughout my life, and to be able to spend time with learning from other people as well. I mean, and it's a joy. I mean, so many people don't like their jobs, or aren't blessed to have the kind of job where I get to do this. And so, yes, it's about happiness and joy for you, and happiness and joy for your students, for your adult learners. So I hope that was okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Colleen. So that was the last answer from Colleen. Concludes our meeting today with what I can gather from the presentation, and also from the answers that responses to the questions from the participants. We are, as teachers of adult learners, and also as teachers as English language, we have to be flexible, quite flexible, to adapt the changes of the era, and also to adapt with the need of our students, and how to recognize the challenges when we deal with adult learners, and also understand that in our country, in Indonesia in particular, that English is a foreign language, so we cannot force a student to learn a language, or to learn this language, unless they are willing to do it. And particularly because their agency and motivation is the most important part of their development in learning the foreign language. And in terms of English teacher, we are training English teacher. So I hope that this talk already presented to the participants that as a teacher, you have to be able to navigate your ways of teaching. So not stick to one parameter of teaching that this is the right way or this is the correct way, but you have to be flexible to change the way you move things around the classroom. Yeah, okay, so this is the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you so much for presenting very excellent ideas with the topic that we requested you to present. And thank you for Dr. Nguyen New for your insightful about English education in Vietnam and also answering all questions from the participants, and to Professor Colleen as well to make time in the evening. Right now it's probably at night at your time, it's around 11 maybe. So yeah, this is what we have now today. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you can join again in the next symposium. Thank you so much, and have the rest of a good day for the rest of your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you and
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Yeah, okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.